Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome. Welcome to our first webinar for 2017. So Happy New Year. And New Year in more than one sense of the word. Today's presentation is focusing on the year-end process for our Microsoft Dynamics GP customers. So probably for the people on the call today, it's an end of financial year and an end of calendar year, so Happy New Year in both sense. So my name's Michael and I'll be hosting the presentation for you today. And I have Ruth Sureta here with me from our customer support team who will actually take us through the presentation. Now, a lot of you will probably be familiar with Ruth and quite possibly have been supported by Ruth within GP over the years. So a familiar voice on the other end of today's webinar. So just before we get started, I just want to note a couple of key points. Firstly, Ruth will present the content to us today, and we will allow about 5 minutes at the end of the session to go through and answer any questions that you may have. So during the session, on the right-hand side of your screen in your GoToWebinar panel, there is a questions box. So at any time during the presentation you can type in your question and we'll allow some time at the end of the session to go through those questions and answer them for you. If we're not able to answer all the questions, we'll just use that as part of the follow-up process for you and give those answers to you as part of the follow-up email. And secondly, we are recording this session today, and this is a particularly good one to record because it is worth re-watching when you actually go through to run your year-end. So we'll record the session. We'll upload the session to our YouTube channel and we'll send you through a link as part of the follow-up at the end of today's presentation. So it's something that you can actually re-watch or send that link around to someone else within your organisation who could watch it as well. So on that note, I'd like to hand over to Ruth. Ruth will actually take us through today's presentation. So thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you everyone for joining our live webinar. We know year-end process is a crucial step and can be the busiest time of the year for you. And some of you might even be their first time to run this, or you could be doing this for quite some time. But since it happens once a year, I guess this is a good time to refresh us with the procedures. So today we're going to discuss 3 areas in year-end closing. The first part is the utilities, and then the year-end for subledgers, and the final part is the year-end closing for general ledger. But before we start, we just want to point you to our website where you can download your version of Microsoft Dynamics GP year-end document. So from the page, you can actually see like a reminder how to set up your new financial year. It also goes through like the detailed steps where to go. And there's also an area where you can actually find where our contact details are if you need assistance in for your year-end. And at the bottom part, you should see the different versions available for your year-end document. So you can see different modules as well, from general ledger, payables, receivables, fixed assets, and inventory. So you will also find this, the FAQs, which answers common year-end questions that are asked by our customers. So pretty much what we're going to discuss today are going to be in those manuals. All right, so what does the year-end process in general ledger do? All right, so let's get started with some important things. If you've been using GP for quite some time, you know that year-end process is not reversible. But the good news is on version GP 2013 R2 and higher, this is now available, which is it allows you to open the most recent historical year, which is a good thing to have. But regardless, if you have that feature or not, we have heard this so many times and it still applies. You must make a backup of your database before commencing the year-end process. This just gives us a peace of mind that in case something happens, we can always restore from a backup. When you do the year-end, we also recommend that all users are out of Great Plains. So if you have multiple companies, you must at least have the users out of the company where you're doing the process on. Finally, you don't really need to wait for the auditors before you roll the year, because if you need to do any adjustments, you can still post to the most recent historical year and it will update the beginning balance automatically. So what does the year-end process in General Ledger do? If you're maintaining account and transaction history, the year-end closing routine transfers all current year information for each account in a chart of accounts to history tables. It also transfers the current profit and loss amounts to the retained earning account, and then it zeroes out all P&L account balances. It then creates the opening balance for the new year. In the year-end closing window, you will also see the option to remove inactive accounts with zero balances. It also prints the year-end closing report, which lists accounts that were closed and the transactions that were created to close those accounts. So you may save this report for your company's permanent records because this report cannot be reprinted. So one of the things that we want to highlight is that at the end of the year, you still need to complete your regular month-end process for all modules, which includes posting of batches, reconciling of your sub-ledgers to the general ledger, and running of various reports. Then you need to set up the new fiscal year and tax year. So regardless if you're going to do the year-end process now or if you're going to delay them, you still need to configure your new financial and tax year. Then you can complete a backup of all databases, and you may need to involve your IT to do this for you on the database server. One of the things we really like for you to do prior to doing your actual year-end is to run through what we call the file maintenance utilities. Reconcile is one of them, and the other is checklinks. Reconcile basically checks for data accuracy among associated tables. It pretty much recalculates the summary total based on your detailed transactions. Let's say in General Ledger, you find the summary inquiry screen does not reflect the correct monthly amount. So running Reconcile will simply tell the system to go through the detailed transaction table, sum it up, and then recalculates the total values on the summary table to reflect the correct figures. So you can actually use this utility not only during year-end, but also if you find any discrepancy or inconsistencies on your report. This tool is available for the core series in Great Plains, such as inventory, sales, purchasing, and general ledger. You can normally find this tool under Tools, Utilities. Although you may run Reconcile for each module separately on a quarterly or even during your month-end process, Microsoft recommends running Reconcile on this order during year-end process. So from your sales order processing to purchasing to inventory, then project accounting, receivables, payables, and general ledger. So if you don't use some of those modules, then you don't really need to run them. So for demonstration, we're using a test company which is Fabricom on version Dynamics GP 2015. So initially, if you need to set up your financial year, you just go Microsoft Dynamics GP, Tools, Setup, Company, and then Financial Period. So you pretty much just enter the year, enter the first day and the last day, and hit Calculate. And then from there, once the periods are created, you can just double check that the dates are correct. So for your tax period, you just have to open the tax period. And from here, you do the same thing. You just type in 2017, the first day and the last day, and the number of periods. So I'll quickly show you the Reconcile utility. So it's found under utilities under all series. So if you go Tools, Utilities, and then you go through Sales, So under sales, you actually find there's Reconcile and Reconcile Remove Sales documents. So in the order that was recommended, we go through the sales order processing first. So that's going to be the Reconcile Remove Sales documents. So pretty much you just have to take the Reconcile Sales documents and hit process for that one. So you also have the option to remove completed documents, but this is not part of the year end. We just need to reconcile the sales documents. If you want to have a look what's the result of that reconcile, you can select the print report only prior to doing the actual reconcile. So from sales, you go purchase order processing under tools, utilities, purchasing, and then use this second option, the reconcile purchasing documents. So you do the same thing, and then you just go through inventory, utilities, inventory, reconcile. And you can run those. And if you're not using project accounting, then you don't need to go through that one. But if you are, you just go under tools, utilities, project, and then just run through those reconcile. Then you just have to go back to sales for the receivables ledger, and then you go reconcile. So there's going to be a lot of options available here, and you can run through those options. And then you can just hit on financial and enter the year, and just process the reconcile. So it will warn you if you're not keeping any historical transaction, it will remove it. But we definitely recommend that you keep those one, and just click yes on that one if you want to continue. And then you do the same thing for payables and for your general ledger. So the other utilities that you need to run is check links. This utility checks for data consistency between related tables. So let's say for an invoice, although you see it in one window, the system actually stores that information in various tables. So there could be one table for the header record, one for the distribution table, and one for the tax table. And when you run check links, what it does, it goes through and verifies that it has valid links between those tables, and it makes sure that the data are intact. It pretty much compares the header and the detail records and potentially rebuild or remove damaged or missing data. So this tool is not exclusive for year-end process. It can be run when necessary. But for year-end routine, what we like to do is tell the customer to run these utilities prior year-end rollover. Well, you may do them on the day, but it may take some time because really, depending on the size of your database, reconcile and check links may run for half an hour to 3 hours to go through each series. If you really have large companies like some of our clients, they do this overnight or over the weekend. So that's why we recommend that you do some planning around this and run them the week before you do your actual year-end. So where do we see check links? Check links can be run under maintenance, and it is available for the core series in Great Plains from project accounting to financial series. If you're not using some of those modules, then just leave them out. So I'll show you where check links is. So under Microsoft Dynamics GP, maintenance, and check links. So from here, you can actually see from the drop-down window the available series where you can run it. And for year-end purposes, we suggest that you run financial, sales, purchasing, and inventory. So we quickly just run sales. So in the year-end procedure manual, you will see which table that you need to run the tables. But for this demonstration purposes, we'll just try running sales, just to give you an idea how long it takes. But this is just a test company with very minimal transactions, so it shouldn't take that long. But yeah. And it just generates the reports at the end of the process. So that's part one of our discussion, running the file maintenance utilities in preparation for the actual year-end closing. So for part two, we are going through the subledger's year-end routines. We recommend doing the year-end for the subledger modules on time before posting transactions for the new year. You may enter transactions for the new year and save them in a batch first. Wait after the year-end close before posting them. So you can perform your subledger year-end close before you're ready to do your general ledger. As we said, you need to do a bit of planning because some organizations, they schedule inventory, receivables, payables, and fixed assets together, and then they close their general ledger at a later time. But then some people just do them all at the same time. So really it's entirely up to you. So when you're done with all the posting and adjustment, we need to close the fiscal and tax period for all subledger modules. This is to prevent users from posting further transactions on your subledgers. So this may already be part of your month-end process, but if not, you can just go ahead and close the periods for the subledger modules. So I'll just quickly show that to you. If you go back to Great Plains, you just go Tools, Setup, Company, and Financial Periods. And that's just, so all the periods and the series are here. So you can just click on Close All, or whichever is needs to be closed. And same thing for your tax period. So the year-end closing for subledgers are available for inventory, receivables, payables, and fixed assets. When you go through the year-end closing for subledger modules, you may find that each module may have different options available. And each routine may take from 10 minutes to more than half an hour. So it really depends on the size of your database. So for inventory, it's recommended that the year-end routine process is run before transactions are entered in the new financial year. So what does it mean if you have not done the year-end rollover for inventory, receivables, and payables, and you posted transactions for a new year? Well, a lot of it relates to some inquiry screen that displays last year and year-to-date information. But if you don't use those information, then it's not necessary to close inventory before new inventory transactions are entered. So in the inventory year-end window, you will find the ability to remove certain information, and these are any discontinued items from the item records that have been completely sold, any lot attributes from the record of lot numbers if they have been sold. It also allows you to remove purchase receipt for items and cost change history, which remove the transaction and distribution history. We normally do not recommend this, but if for whatever reason you need to, then at least you know that this option is available. And the last option is it allows you to update the standard cost of each item to the current cost if you are using FIFO and LIFO periodic valuation method. So these are all optional, and you don't have to do them if you want to keep those information. So when you hit close, close year, it will not print any year-end report. So if we look at Great Plains, it's under Tools, Routines, Inventory, and then Year-end Close. So you can see these are all the options available. So if you don't want to update anything, any of those information, you can just leave it blank and hit process. So let's try and process that one. So there's no report generated on that year end as well. So for receivables management, this is a quick overview of what needs to be done during year-end routine. So similarly, in all subledgers, you need to post all sales and receivable batches for the year, make a backup of the year-end process, because this is not reversible for subledger modules. Then proceed with the year-end closing, and then close any financial periods that are still open, then make another backup. So what happens when I close the year on receivables management? The closing routine updates the year-to-date and last year fields in amount since last close view in receivables inquiry and summary reports. The year-end routine only affects the summary table, and it does not update your detailed transaction table. So again, if you post transaction to the new year prior to running your year-end, you can manually edit the fields that are updated during year-end, and your customer summary amounts will show the correct figure. So if you're not using those fields, some organizations don't necessarily report out of these areas. They get reports from other tools that are date-driven. They might have QuickSense, or they might have Board, or some of the other BI tools as well as that may produce those results for them. All right, so let's just go to the year-end. So if you go Tools, Routines, Sales, and year-end close, so you just want to check your user date, because you might want to set this to the last day of your financial year. And then just process the year-end. So I'll show you which screen the year-end routine is updating. So if you go to Inquiry, Sales, and then Yearly Summary, so you can see that the year-to-date after doing the year-end transfer rate to last year. So if you don't use this inquiry, specifically this summary view amount since last close, this information is actually also available in financial or calendar year. So when you switch the view to financial year and hit calculate, it's still going to be available. So that's pretty much the only thing that the year-end updates. So if you already posted some transactions, you haven't done your year-end, that's going to be fine as long as you're not going to use this. If you need to use this and the amounts are incorrect, you can actually edit that. So you just go to Cards, Sales, Summary, pull up the debtor ID, and then you actually amend this. Any changes that you do here will display on the inquiry screen. So let's move on to the payables. So similarly in receivables, you need to post all transactions for the year, print the necessary reports, and essentially run the year-end closing. And then when it's done, just close any remaining open fiscal periods and tax periods, then take another backup. So that's the overview of the payables year-end routine. So we pretty much go through the same process, post the transactions, print all the necessary reports, make a backup, close the year, close the, any open periods, and make another backup. So what does payable year-end closing does in Great Plains? It's similar with receivables. It updates the current figure and last year amounts in both summary and amount since last close view in the vendor year summary inquiry screen. So since it only updates the summary, you can always manually edit these fields to reflect the correct values. So it's the same with the receivables. I'll quickly show you. So if you go to inquiry, purchasing, and you go payable summary, you can see which not that one. So you can see that the amount since last close is also available. So at the moment you see that the year to date is 50,000, and if we run the year end under tools, routines, purchasing, year end close, and just click on close year. So if we go back to the inquiry screen, so you'll just see that the year-to-date amount has been transferred to last year. But then again, if you don't use that field, it's always available in other view. So now let's go to fixed asset. And you'll find here the overview of what needs to be done during fixed asset year-end routine. So unlike the previous subledgers we have discussed so far, this routine must be completed before you can run depreciation for the new year. So until you do the year end, the system will not allow you to run depreciation. And the only module you need to consider closing before fixed asset is payables management to ensure all transactions from payables have been capitalized in the fixed asset system. And this is only true if you're using the interface from purchasing to fixed assets. If not, then you can pretty much do this year end before other subledgers. So it's the same process. You enter and post all activities for the current year. You run the depreciation for all assets to the last day of the current financial year for the book that you are closing. So you must see to it that this is completed. Then you can process the GL interface, run all the reports, specifically those reports which include year-to-date depreciation amounts. Then you just have to go through and ensure that fixed asset calendar is built. When it's done, you just have to close the year, and then the year-end routine can be run at separate time for each fixed asset book, or it can be run for all the books at the same time. So if we go back to GP, if we go Tools, Routines, Fixed Assets, Year End. So from this window, you just have to check if the year that you're closing is correct. So at the moment, I've already done 2016. That's why the available books is 2017. On this test company, you can see 3 books, but you may have 1 or 2, your account or your tax book. So you can actually run them all at the same time, just insert all, or you can do them one at a time. But you cannot do depreciation until you do this process. The system will prompt you that you need to do your year end. Okay, so now we will go through the last part, which is the most important part of the year end, the general ledger. So this is an overview of the things that we need to check. And as we go through the list, we just want to highlight some key things that you need to take note of. And those are items 3 and 6. So that's verifying all accounts are set up with correct posting type. And we're going to check the general ledger setup window. So after closing the subledger modules, and by the time you get to the final GL year and closing, you're pretty much familiar with most of the steps on the list, like posting all the necessary final adjusting entries. So if you close the year and finds out you still need to do some adjustment, the system has a feature to allow you to post back to the most recent historical year. And the system will automatically update the retained earnings and opening balances. So for step 3, you need to verify all accounts are set up with the correct posting type. Because the system uses the posting type to determine whether the account should be close to the retained earnings account at the end of the year or have a balance brought forward to the next year. So to help us identify these accounts with incorrect posting type, we'll check our Smart List report later on in GP. Then you have to close the last period of the fiscal year. This is just to prevent users from posting further transactions in Great Plains. Then you run the file maintenance on the financial series, and those are the check links in Reconcile. And so the other thing that we need to show is checking the general ledger settings and make sure they are correct. After that, you just have to make a backup, print all the necessary reports such as summary, detailed trial balance, and your financial statements. Maybe if you have management reporters, then you can get those reports. When you're done with that one, you just have to close the year and then do another backup. So we want to ensure that all posting types are correct. Otherwise, your year-end journal figure may be skewed. So the posting type could be balance sheet or profit and loss. If the account's balance is brought forward at the end of the year, it should be set up as balance sheet posting type. If the account's balance will be close to a retained earnings account at the end of the year, it should be set up as profit and loss posting type. And to help us search for the range of accounts that are incorrect, we can configure a report in Smart List for this. So if you go to GP and you open up your Smart List under financial accounts, so you should see your all of your accounts here. You just do a simple search parameter where you say your main account segment. In this case, my main account segment is the, let me just get that one. Okay, I'll just say that between 00 to 399, and then I'll just pull up posting a type is equal to balance sheet. So this is just a simple search where my main account should display this range of accounts which represent my balance sheet accounts and then show me the exception. So I know for a fact that this range are my balance sheets, and if it results any result, sorry, I'll put this to profit and loss, then I would know that those accounts are incorrectly set up. So if I click OK, so I can see my cash accounts are configured incorrectly. So we just have to correct this one by going to cards, financial and accounts maintenance. Or you can just double click on here and it will open up your account maintenance screen. And I will just change this. The posting type is located on this screen. So I'll just put it to balance sheet, save it, and do the other one as well. So now when I refresh the report, this gives me a result that meaning all my balance sheet accounts are set up correctly. So you can leave this report so that in the future, you know, if some users configure new accounts and you want to check if they've set it up correctly, then you can quickly have a look at that report. So you can do the same thing for your profit and loss accounts. So another window that you need to go through before year end is the general ledger setup. So because you want to maintain, we'll have a look at what options are available in that screen. So if we go to GP, go Tools, Setup, Financial, and general ledger. So there are a lot of options available on this screen, but I want you to focus on the maintain history area. So if you want to keep historical records, make sure that the maintain history for accounts and transactions are marked in this window. Account history allows you to print historical financial statements and calculated budgets from historical information, while transaction history, it allows you to print historical detailed trial balance, and it allows you to drill down to transaction detail. So if these options are not marked, when you do your year-end, your historical data will be deleted. So it's crucial that you make sure this is marked. So another thing that you need to look at is the retained earnings section, especially if you are newly implemented. You just want to make sure that you have the correct retained earnings set up. If you are closing to divisional accounts, you have to make sure that this one is marked, and all divisional retained earnings should be set up. And pretty much those are the things that you need to look at. This option, allow posting to history. This is the one we've discussed earlier. When you, let's say you've already closed your year and realize that you need to do more adjustments, then if this option is marked, the system will allow you to post to the most recent year, and it will automatically update your beginning balance. So once the configuration are correct and the reports have been printed, so you can take a backup and do the actual year-end. So when you open the year-end window, you will see additional options such as, let's go back to GP. If we go to Tools, Routines, Financial, Year-end Closing, so you will see additional options such as remove unused segment numbers, maintain inactive accounts, reverse historical year, and you also have the progress bar available. So the remove unused segment option, this allows you to delete any unused segments that are not in an account number. But if you wish to retain unused segments, just make sure that you don't mark this option. For maintain inactive accounts option, this allows you to keep inactive accounts if it is marked. So if you don't mark this, it will delete your inactive accounts. So once you mark that one, the other options at the bottom will be enabled. So this one with budget amounts. So you're just telling the system, okay, I want to maintain inactive accounts, but only with budget amounts against them. So any accounts that are inactive and they don't have any budget amounts, then it's going to be deleted. Otherwise, if you want to maintain all inactive accounts, you just have to take this option at the bottom. So another option that's now available on GP 2015 R2 is the reverse historical year. This allows you to open the most recent historical year. So from the screen, you can see that the year is 2016. So if I select reverse historical year, this will reopen 2015. And this button is available if you mark the Keep Account and Transaction History in the General Ledger Setup window. Because if you don't keep that, and there's no point of reversing to the historical year because it's been deleted if you don't keep the history records. Okay, so before you close the year, make sure that you have another chance to review that your retained earnings account is correct. And you need to make sure that you're closing the correct year. So in this case, we're closing 2016. So I'll just go and hit close year and just continue. So this is the progress bar that I've discussed earlier. Although we cannot estimate how much time it will take to process, the progress bar can actually come handy just to show how far you're going. So you just have to print the report. and save them, because these reports are not, you can't reprint them again. So it will let you know when the process is complete. All right, so when it's done, just print the year-end report, the year-end closing report, which lists the accounts that were closed and the transactions that were created to close those accounts. And then you can reprint the reports you've generated earlier prior to closing, just to compare and ensure the expected results. Then simply close all fiscal periods for all years and then take a backup. And as we pointed earlier, you are entitled to post any further adjustment for the most recent year, and it will automatically update your beginning balance. All right, so the remaining slides are for users with Analytical Accounting module. If you're on GP10 and below, there's no year-end process for Analytical Accounting. But for GP10 with Service Pack 2 and above, year-end routine for AA is now part of the GL year-end closing. It's performed automatically during year-end process, and you don't need to do anything else. So the year-end routine transfer all current year analytical data for each account to account and transaction history for all transaction dimensions. But you have the option to transfer them manually under utilities. So if we go to GP, you go Tools, Utilities, Financial, Analytical Accounting, and then move data to History. So these are the available options if you want to transfer data to History table. So the Transfer Transaction Detail to History, you can select this option just to transfer the analysis information for the selected close year to History, or you can consolidate transactions. This will combine your transaction dimension codes, and the consolidated balance are brought forward to the next year. Or you can just print, preview the transfer transactions. So pretty much, let's have a look if we missed anything. All right, so that's our end-to-end year-end closing routine. So to recap the process, we've just touched on the file maintenance utilities, which probably take the most time to process. Then the subledger year-end routine, which could be a quick one if you have a small database. And the final part is the GL year-end routine, which is the most important one. And this process is company specific. And so if you have multiple companies, you may want to start with the smaller one. And then by the time you get to your main company, you already mastered the steps. So you can do this in one go or schedule them accordingly if you cannot afford users to get out of GP for a long time. So yeah, that concludes our presentation, and I'll give you back to Michael.
Thank you, Ruth. Look, there's a lot of content obviously presented there. And just to finish and wrap things up today, obviously the year-end process is critical and important, and we know that you only do it once a year. So if you're confident enough to do it yourself, please go ahead. If you're not and you would like our assistance, just let us know, and you can book a consultant to help you with that year-end process. And if you're not sure who that is, or if you're not currently working with one of our account managers, you can also reach out to Eleanor, who helped prepare the session for us today from a marketing perspective. So on that note, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to Ruth for presenting the year-end for us today with Dynamics GP. Good luck with your year-end, but please, if you do need our help, let us know. And as I said, you can indicate that as you exit the session today. So thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.